So Paul here from Team APS published a video 5 days ago titled Talking About Yu-Gi-Oh has gone complicated. Although if I'm being honest with you, this video is very surface level and he doesn't really go into a whole lot of details about everything, I thought that this video was interesting to me personally. If you've been subscribed to this channel for a while, or even if you look at the history of my videos, right, you'll see that occasionally I talk about Yu-Gi-Oh, right? I've been talking about Yu-Gi-Oh for about a year, but I don't make that many Yu-Gi-Oh videos normally. I think I might make like one Yu-Gi-Oh video every other month, something like that. I've gone a period where I didn't make any for like 4 months, so I do talk about it, and in this month in particular I did a lot, but it's not normally something I'm constantly talking about. And what I found interesting about this video is that he basically brought up just about every single subject and topic that I've discussed on my videos this month. Now with that said, I highly doubt that Paul is watching any of my videos or has any idea who I am, right? My channel is very insignificant in comparison to his, like not even in the same universe, so I highly doubt it, but it's an interesting coincidence. With that said though, just about everything he discussed on this video are topics that I've been bringing up this entire month, almost to the point where it feels like a response, which I know it's not, but it feels like it. And even though it's not actually a response, because it's things that we've been talking about anyway, and he seems to disagree with me on a lot of those things as well, I figured I'd kick it back and do my response.
Hey guys, Paul here. So today I'm going to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! And why that's become kind of difficult. And I think it's totally fine to, have criticisms about the games that you play. In fact, that's something I'll probably be getting into a little bit more later. But I found that when I do make videos or social media posts, or anybody does actually, bringing up these criticisms, you will attract a couple of different crowds of people. So the first crowd of people are the ones that kind of just hate Yu-Gi-Oh! Completely. And they take any person critiquing Yu-Gi-Oh! As just a sign that, well, okay, Yu-Gi-Oh's dying, obviously, like it's always been, and this is why it's terrible and all that stuff. These are oftentimes your extremely disenfranchised, very angry, kind of, I wouldn't even call them Yugi-Boomer, maybe just like Yugi-Doomer. This person who probably isn't even really playing the game actively today, but they've kind of set in stone their opinion on it. So these might be people who say, yeah, that's right, because the game went downhill with the extra deck.
Number one is having the extra deck going back to being just fusions. That means getting rid of synchros, XYZs, pendulums, links, everything that is not either a ritual summon or a fusion summon. All of that I would like to see go away.
Right? Synchros ruined Yu-Gi-Oh! The moment they introduced synchros, it was all downhill from there. Or it might even be like an anime opinion, like everything after Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was terrible, and that's when the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series died.
Yeah, the anime especially. Anything after 5Ds, as far as anime, just sucks. Maybe I'm being unfair. There's going to be that one person, oh, Reigns was pretty good, or this, or Arc V, or Sevens is pretty good. That's fine. You can have your opinion, I can have mine. Everything post 5Ds sucked.
And a lot of people, I think, would agree that like 5Ds kind of felt like the peak Yu-Gi-Oh era. Kind of just like for the anime, for like the cards, the card pool, the way the game was played. So getting back to the question, I think Edison format was pretty liked in 2010. Like I don't remember major complaints. If anything, I would say that like the format right after it's when things got started to crack.
Right? And they should just go back to that or just destroy the game entirely.
There's only two solutions in my book. Number one, making these alternative formats and printing cards that are specifically designed only for these formats. Or number two, completely nuking the game and starting from scratch. And reevaluate their approach on the monetization of the game and how they release new sets. The game is too far gone. There's no ban list. There is no format now that's going to fix this game. It's done. The way the game plays in general, like hand traps, omni negates, unbreakable turn one boards, the game is already ruined. There's nothing you can do to fix that. There's no ban list that's going to fix it. It went on for too long.
And also, you'll hear so many different opinions from these people, but something that I've oftentimes found is that these people don't actually engage with Yu-Gi-Oh! In earnest. They have not actually played Yu-Gi-Oh! In many years in some cases. They don't actually know what the current meta decks are. They don't really necessarily know what, the latest summoning mechanics look like, how the most recent decks are played.
This is fine.
And I don't like that I sometimes feel like I attract that crowd because it's not the crowd that I want to attract. You guys know that like on this channel in particular, we're not always like super duper positive and optimistic about Yu-Gi-Oh! I've got lots of critiques about the game and things that I'm not super happy with or would like to see improved, but I also still play Yu-Gi-Oh! And like it.
I fear that this questionnaire episode is going to end up getting a little ranty on my part because I'm not lying when I say Yu-Gi-Oh feels a little miserable today. Like like I'm a Yugi-Boomer now because I'm so sorry. Edison format, like when I was playing it, I was enjoying Yu-Gi-Oh. Say what you want, maybe it's rose-tinted goggles, maybe it's because I was like younger at the time and just kind of had free time, so every weekend I could just play Yu-Gi-Oh all I wanted. But I really and truly think it was like a prime time of Yu-Gi-Oh. There was so much passion, so much like the game, so like it had its identity. This postmodern Yu-Gi-Oh is like it's stressful. Everyone's angry about everything. Card design feels like it's like moving at a breakneck pace. We've gone from tier 0 format to tier 0 format to tier 0 format.
I see these people online a lot in like comments sections on many, especially like the official Konami posts. You'll see these people a lot where it's like this game went downhill after insert pack, or you know they should just reboot Duelist Kingdom and that's it, and then like destroy all these other cards. And I always found that view to be honestly kind of selfish as well.
If you're one of the brave souls that has been watching my videos for a while now, or at least if you've watched some of my last videos, you know that I actively advocate for a reboot of both of the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG and the anime in conjunction. I've been bringing that up for a while now, is because I don't think there is any point at all in rebooting the original anime with the current game the way it is.
The cool new Yu-Gi-Oh anime comes out, but it's Snake Eye format. Mm-hmm. So like you want to try out Yu-Gi-Oh and think like it's fun and cool, but then like you have to deal with like Snake Eyes doing long combos, breaking rules, and
like in order for a Yu-Gi-Oh anime to do its job, the cards do have to follow it to some degree. Yeah. And I don't know how we rectify that.
I think that here's what I think. A Yu-Gi-Oh anime reboot has to come with a Yu-Gi-Oh TCG reboot. That's my maybe hot take.
They should just reboot Duelist Kingdom and that's it, and then like destroy all these other cards. And I always found that view to be honestly kind of selfish as well. But this idea that like everything else must be burned to the ground in the process feels selfish to me because there are a lot of people who enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! The way that it's played.
Here's what I think. A Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime reboot has to come with a Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG reboot.
Is this just the modern internet where everything's so binary, right? Like you have to either love or hate something. You're with me or against me, black or white, right? It must be, either that you love Yu-Gi-Oh! And everything about it, or if you have any small complaint, well, you should just quit and like get out of this game. It's not for you. Stop complaining.
There's good rule changes we can make while still having the game feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! I think this is very, it's very valid points he's made. So I mean, why do you think when you say these things, people call you like Yugi-Boomer? They're just saying you just want to get back. You just basically want to get back to old Yu-Gi-Oh, man. Like,
I think that's where a lot of people, when they first hear it, they're so conditioned. That's what my last video has been about. Like, people are very ageist, and they've become very quick at like discarding people's opinion without actually hearing them out. And that's not just Yu-Gi-Oh, right? That's not just a Yu-Gi-Oh exclusive thing. I think that as a society, we've lost the basic decency in communication skill of like just hearing each other out before we make an assumption. And also the skill of it's okay to disagree. Like, you don't have to agree with me. You might like the anime stuff. I'm not saying I'm the holder of truth and all the anime sucks and everything now sucks. I might think that, but you don't have to. I'm just sharing my opinion.
That's always so bizarre to me because it's like, making criticisms and kind of opening up discussions and stuff like that and making your voice heard when you have critiques is like how we kind of move forward and like learn things. Konami needs feedback. In fact, they themselves have admitted that in many cases. There are player surveys. They have surveys in Master Duel. They do surveys at YCS events. They've got an email address that you can even like email for, organized play support and stuff like that. It's not that, every single critique will necessarily be like heard and immediately applied, like, oh, I think that they should print this in a different rarity, so they're just going to do it the next set. But by continually talking about this stuff, we can sometimes make a difference.
But the second reason is just promoting in general the conversation. Maybe it's not my videos, but maybe one of my videos inspires another person that's a bigger YouTuber. Or maybe I watch someone else's video that inspires me to talk about something, and we're all connected, I believe, in that way to where we can amplify each other's voices. It's not so much about my videos or another channel's videos in specific that are going to be the difference. The difference is a conversation happening in general. The more that promotes a conversation, it promotes a sentiment, and the idea is that hopefully maybe someone up there at Konami eventually listens.
Yu-Gi-Oh's dying, obviously, like it's always been, and this is why it's terrible and all that stuff.
I am quitting competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And so are half of or most of your favorite players. And there's a bunch of reasons for this. I'm going to go through my personal reasons, and yeah, we'll have a bit of a discussion, because I think there's a lot of things that would need to change to get me back to playing this game. And yeah.
At the 250th YCS in London, I showed up playing a deck that wasn't particularly competitive, but I liked and did way better than I thought I would. And I thought, okay, this is going to light a fire under me. I can't wait to actually get good enough at the game that I can start topping YCSs. I'm going to put in the hours, and I sat down to play Kashtira for YCS Philly, and I really dissipated within a matter of days. That's like an awful place to be in, right? When people whose job it is to play this game for a living don't want to play the game anymore.
I'm not lying when I say Yu-Gi-Oh! Feels a little miserable today.
In my humble opinion, I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is getting a little unfun. But that brings me to the next problem with Yu-Gi-Oh! And why I'm not really having fun right now. The Diablo Star and the Horus Engine are crazy cool. SP Little Knight is crazy cool. The Triple Tactics cards are cool. But is it just me? Or does it seem like everybody's playing the exact same cards even though they're playing different decks?
That's another problem. Every deck now, to be relevant, needs a MathMech circular. Like every deck needs multiple engine starters. And they're hyper consistent, right? So like, where do we go from here? Every deck already does everything to the point they look the same, like as the way they play.
Yeah. I think I had a complaint about that like months ago when with Super Heavy Samurai. What's the point of playing Super Heavy Samurai if they're just building, if it's like it's building the same big boards with like 5 negates?
That's a great point too. Everything ends in the same board. Which synchros kind of do that in a way, and the way to fix that but still allow for synchros, in my opinions, is make synchros like Junk Warrior, or like I think Turbo Warrior is the name. Synchros that require specific tuners to make that monster, versus making it, okay, these 2 random monsters can just make Barone. I don't think that that's good, because it all ends up in like Chaos Angel and Barone the Floor.
Yu-Gi-Oh's dying, obviously, like it's always been, and this is why it's terrible and all that stuff.
So that is reason number 3 why I think Yu-Gi-Oh is dying. Nobody wants to play Tier 0 formats anymore. And this is something that I've frankly been seeing for years now, and it's been really frustrating to watch the vast majority of Yugi-Tubers not acknowledge that this is a problem. I've always been saying that I don't like power creep and how the game has changed, but when tier limits came out, that's when I really feel like the game went to utter shit. And it was really frustrating for me to see all these people saying, wow, the mirror match for tier limits is great. Yes, a tournament with 100 players playing the exact same deck, that's absolutely great. And it was really frustrating to me because I watch a lot of Yugi-Tubers, and I'm not calling anyone out in specific, but nobody was talking about this, and this was not like an acceptable or popular opinion to bring up. Like to say that Yu-Gi-Oh was dying, or to say that this is a problem, or to say that the tier limits is going to be the death of the game, to say these things was extremely unpopular. Like, you would get downvoted to shit if you said that. And then when Kashtira came out, I was saying the exact same thing. This is not fun. It is not fun that only one deck is viable. Tier 0 formats will kill the game. And then it was Tier 0 Snake Eyes, which I continued saying the same thing, and finally it seems that most people now finally agree. I don't know what it is about Snake Eye, but it's funny that that was finally the nail on the coffin, that the vast majority of people are saying, yeah, this is kind of shit. Like, this is not fun. Like $1,000 tier 0 format that changes every other month, this is probably not the best direction for the game. And it was only then, when it finally became acceptable to start calling this out, that I finally started seeing most Yugi-Tubers bringing this up as a problem. Finally. I'm not gonna hate on the pros or the Yugi-Tubers too much because they do this for a living. There's a reason why, even though the boom of my channel here, the vast majority of my subscriber base has been from talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! There's a reason why I haven't pigeonholed myself into just talking about this. If you become a Yugi-Tuber and you make a livelihood out of talking about Yu-Gi-Oh!, you have a vested interest into creating hype for the game. You have a vested interest in your career, right? The game is your career, so if there is no hype for the game, or if the game is dying, or if you acknowledge that certain things are bad about it, not only are you going to piss off the people that do like the game and you're going to lose subscribers because of that, but you're kind of like digging your own grave in a sense. You have to continue to support and promote a game that you know is dying. You know that this is not good for the game, but you don't want to talk about it because it's your career. And the truth is that if Yu-Gi-Oh! Dies, all these Yugi-Tubers are suddenly out of a job. That's just the truth. And then we get into another debate of like, okay, well, what does the progression of the game look like? Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't have a rotation model. So, which is a separate topic, and there's a lot of schools of thought when it comes to this. So, in the ideal world, my opinion would be that Yu-Gi-Oh! Should adopt a very horizontal growth model, meaning the sales for the cards come from the diversity of new printed cards in different options of play versus just new sets that completely overpower the previous sets and essentially replace them, which we say we don't have rotation for Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, but we kind of do. Every new tier 0 deck that comes out, there's your rotation right there. Every ban list that comes out, that's a form of rotation as well. So people don't call it that, but to me, it's essentially the same thing, but it makes it worse because it makes the company constantly have to overpower previous sets, and it forces the company to make the game crazier and crazier, and there's no ceiling. And we're in an interesting spot right now where I think that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has reached a plateau where do you go from here, right? Because the game already ends on turn 0 or turn 1. You already have Omni Negates. You already have Unbreakable boards. You already have 20-step combos. Like, what's the next thing, right? I don't know how the game gets crazier than it is now. So the idea would be to put some sort of cap. Now, that might be a little bit, that's the idealistic thing for me, right? Versus the extremely aggressive vertical model that they have going on right now of just like, it screams to me just like corporate greed and quarterly profits. Yeah, there should be some sort of, it's not a progression. I don't think of it as in power creep. I think of in expanding the game, adding new strategies, new way to do different things that don't completely outshine everything. Because let me know if you agree with me. I feel like Konami has a business model right now that rotates in this way. We print out a new set, we let it sell, so we make a new set, it completely overpowers everything that was there before. It's now Tearlaments, now Kashtira, it's now Snake Eye. Everybody buys it. Then we start hitting it and start banning it to the point where then it's no longer that viable anymore, or it's not as good. Then we do the same thing again. Then we start banning it once it sells a lot. Then it's just rinse and repeat. It's clearly like, the way that they're doing it, to me, it's so obvious. It makes them look desperate.
Why don't we just re-release a Dark Magician? We revamped the Blue Eyes White Dragon. We retuned kind of how we did to some of the other cards, kind of how we did to Gaia, how we did to the Black Luster Soldier, Bluster Blader. Let's just do that to Dark Magician. Everybody loves Dark Magician. Everybody knows the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Let's just do that shit again.
Bill, no one gives a fuck about the Dark Magician and Blue Eyes White Dragon anymore. Nobody ever gave a shit. They only ever cared about the Dark Magician girl. And we already reprinted and redone that a million different ways. It's not weird enough. The kids nowadays, they're into weird shit. You know, it can't just be a wizard. It can't just be a hot girl. It's gotta be a fish. It's gotta get weird. That's what the kids like now, man. Ted, anime, fish, girls. Let's start tomorrow. You assign the budget. I'll come up with some fucking name overnight. You know, what do they have? Some tiara, elemental bullshit, whatever. I'll come up with some shit. It doesn't really matter. Nobody's gonna really give a fuck. They're gonna be too busy looking at the damn fish. And they're gonna be too overwhelmed with all the... We're just gonna shove a wall of text in there too, man. Like, make it crazy. Make it like... Your turn never ends type of thing. So you're not gonna be paying even attention to what the hell is going on with the game. You're not even gonna notice the design or the name. Just put so much text there and make it do so much. The kids are gonna fucking love it, man. Ted, make it so you need a degree to play the deck. Make it so, like, nobody who's not insane can understand what the hell's going on anymore. That'll make the game look cool. It'll make it look smart. That'll make it sell. We'll fucking ban it afterwards.
Well, then what's the point?
What do you mean, what's the point? The point is it fucking sells. And then guess what? We ban it, and then we come up with some other shit. And then it sells, and then we ban it. And then guess what? I'm gonna let you do the rest of the math. We come up with some other shit. And it sells, and we ban it. That's how this shit works.
Yugi-Doomer.